Your mind, it is the greatest power you will ever have. But for many, it's also the greatest burden. It holds them hostage in a loop of self-doubt, drowns them in waves of emotion, and locks them in fear that never even needed to exist. Instead of being the voice of reason, it becomes a storm of confusion. Instead of building their life, it quietly breaks it down, one anxious thought at a time. It invents problems where none exist. It takes a spark of discomfort and turns it into a wildfire of suffering. And it clings tightly to regrets, worries, and outcomes that lie far outside of our control. But what if that could change? What if you could take your mind back? What if, instead of working against you, it became your strongest ally? Imagine waking up and facing life's challenges with a deep, unwavering calm. Imagine being able to silence your anxiety, to let go of what you can't change, and to stay steady, rational, even when the world around you spins out of control. That kind of power isn't a dream. It's not reserved for a chosen few. It's a discipline, a learnable skill. And those who master it unlock a life that most people will never experience. The ancient Stoics knew this truth. They lived through war, betrayal, exile, yet they cultivated a peace that could not be shaken. Their wisdom, passed down through the centuries, still stands today as a guide for those of us who want more than motivation. We want mastery. We want peace that isn't dependent on our circumstances, strength that doesn't break under pressure, and clarity that cuts through chaos. In this video, you're going to learn 10 powerful Stoic lessons that can help you master your mind, step by step. These aren't abstract philosophies or distant ideals. These are practical tools, actions you can take every single day to build strength, focus, and resilience. And by the end, you'll have something priceless, a clear path to mental mastery. But you need to watch this until the very end. Every principle builds on the last, forming a complete mental framework. Skip one, and you miss the foundation. Stay with me, and you'll walk away with something more valuable than inspiration. You'll walk away with control. This isn't just a motivational talk. This is a blueprint for transformation. So stay locked in. Absorb every word. Most of all, live what you learn. If this message speaks to you, hit that subscribe button and join a growing community of people committed to becoming calm, focused, and mentally unshakable. Now let's begin, because the strongest version of you is waiting on the other side of this. Lesson number 1. Focus on what you can control. One of the biggest mistakes we make, day after day, is trying to control what was never ours to control. Your mind obsesses over what others think of you. It drowns in fear of a future that hasn't even happened. It replays the past, wishing you could go back and fix things that are already gone. And that's where most of your suffering is born. Not from life itself, but from the constant draining effort to control the uncontrollable. It's like standing in the middle of a thunderstorm and screaming at the sky to stop raining. It's pointless, but you do it anyway. We all do. The Stoics called this out over 2,000 years ago. They recognized the truth that many people today still refuse to see. You don't control the world. You don't control other people. You don't control outcomes. The only thing you truly control, fully and completely, is yourself. And that is more than enough. Epictetus put it in the simplest, most powerful terms. Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not. If you truly understand this deeply, not just intellectually, it changes everything. It changes where you put your time, your energy, your attention. It frees you. Let's take something common: relationships. You can't force someone to treat you with respect. You can't control whether they speak with kindness or cruelty. But you can control how you respond. You can choose not to be dragged into anger. You can choose not to give their words power over you. Because the truth is, their words only hurt if you let them. They mean nothing unless you hand them meaning. Or think about failure. You spent months preparing, planning, giving it everything you had. And still, the outcome doesn't match your hopes. You feel defeated. But stop. What part of this do you still control? You can't rewrite what happened, but you can decide how to grow from it. You can't control whether people applaud you or criticize you, but you can choose to show up again, to learn, to evolve. That choice, that response, that's where your real power lives. Mastering this mindset isn't a one-time thing, it's a daily discipline. You must constantly ask yourself, is this something I can control? If the answer is no, release it. Let it go. Free your mind from the burden. If the answer is yes, then act with clarity, with strength, and with everything you've got. You reclaim your peace the moment you stop trying to control what you can't and start owning what you can. When you make this shift, when you narrow your focus to your own actions, your own mindset, your own energy, everything becomes lighter. Anxiety shrinks, confidence grows, and life begins to make sense again. This is the first step toward mastering your mind. The moment you accept that your power lies within, not outside, you begin to live like a Stoic. You begin to live like someone who's no longer trying to control the weather, but instead has learned to walk through the storm with calm, purpose, and strength. Lesson number 2. Do not let emotions control you. Your emotions can be a source of great power, or your greatest downfall. Left unchecked, they control your decisions, your words, and your actions. They can make you lash out in anger, walk away from opportunity in fear, or say things you'll regret in moments of frustration. And most people live like this every day, reacting instead of responding, ruled by emotion rather than guided by reason. But the Stoics taught something radically different. They believed that real strength, the kind that doesn't crumble when life gets hard, comes from emotional control. Now let's be clear, emotional control doesn't mean pretending your emotions don't exist. It doesn't mean burying your feelings or becoming cold and distant. What it means is mastering the space between feeling and action. It means being aware of your emotions, understanding them fully, but refusing to let them decide who you become. Imagine someone criticizes you, at work, online, even a friend. Your instinct is to feel hurt, angry, defensive, but pause. Ask yourself, what would reacting in anger really achieve? Would it fix the situation? Would it make you stronger? Or would it just hand your power over to someone who doesn't deserve it? Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That quote isn't just poetic, it's practical. In any situation, the one thing you always control is your response, and that is everything. To develop this emotional mastery, begin with awareness. When an emotion rises, don't say, "I am angry." Instead say, "I am experiencing the feeling of anger." It may seem small, but that shift in language creates distance. You're not the anger, you're the observer. You're not drowning in it, you're watching it pass. And that's powerful. Next time you feel your emotions take over, pause, breathe. Remind yourself, this emotion, no matter how intense, is temporary. It will fade. You don't need to act on it right now. In fact, most of the time, the wisest thing you can do is wait. Anger loses its grip. Fear fades, sadness softens, and in that quiet space after the storm, that's where your real clarity lies. The Stoics practice something called premeditatio malorum, preparing their minds for hardship in advance. They visualize challenges, criticism, loss, temptation, so that when those moments arrived, they were already ready. They didn't react impulsively. They responded deliberately. Imagine if you lived this way. If before, walking into a stressful meeting or confronting a difficult conversation, you took a moment to prepare, not just what you'd say, but how you'd feel. You'd walk in grounded, calm, focused. The truth is, anyone can be emotional. Anyone can react. But to remain calm when provoked, to think clearly when insulted, to stand tall when everything inside you wants to crumble, that is rare, that is strength, and that is Stoicism. Mastering your emotions doesn't happen overnight, it takes practice. But every time you choose to pause instead of react, every time you choose reason over impulse, you're becoming someone who cannot be shaken by circumstance, someone who remains in control no matter what chaos surrounds them. This is what it means to be Stoic, not emotionless, but emotionally strong. And in a world full of noise, reaction, and outrage, that kind of strength is power beyond measure. Lesson number 3. Live by reason, not impulse. There's a quiet war inside of you, a battle between reason and impulse. One side pulls you toward wisdom, clarity, and discipline. The other pushes you into momentary pleasure, emotional reactions, and choices that feel good now but hurt later. Impulses are loud. They shout. they demand, they offer comfort in the moment and then disappear, leaving behind regret. But reason whispers. It waits. It doesn't seduce. It guides. And the Stoics taught us that if you want to master your mind, if you want to live a life of strength, peace, and integrity, then you must make reason your ruler. Impulse is what makes you say things in anger that you don't mean. It's what makes you walk away from a goal just because the work got uncomfortable. It's what makes you indulge in what's easy rather than pursue what's meaningful. How many times have you made a decision on the spot, driven by emotion, by fear, by desire, and then looked back and thought, why did I do that? That is the cost of impulse. It chips away at your long-term peace for short-term satisfaction. Seneca, one of the wisest Stoic minds, said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If you are ruled by cravings, distractions, and instant gratification, then you are not in control. You are being controlled. And over time, that pattern leads to chaos. But when you begin to live by reason, something powerful happens. You pause. You reflect. You ask questions like, what is the right choice here? What would my highest self choose? Will this serve me tomorrow or just comfort me today? To live by reason is to slow down in a world obsessed with speed. It's to act from values, not from pressure. It's to choose purpose over impulse, again and again. Imagine someone provokes you. Your instinct is to snap back, but reason says, what outcome do I want? Imagine you're tempted to skip your morning routine. Impulse says, you deserve rest, but reason says, what do you want more? Comfort now or growth over time? This discipline doesn't come naturally. It has to be built. Just like a muscle, it grows when it's tested. Every time you resist an impulse, you strengthen your ability to act with clarity. Every time you choose patience over indulgence, stillness over chaos, or discipline over distraction, you're taking back control of your life. Living by reason also means not being swayed by the world around you. Society pushes you constantly to fit in, to chase trends, to seek approval. But the Stoic path is different. The Stoic doesn't act to impress. They act from principle. Whether the world applauds them or ignores them, they do what is right. And that kind of integrity is rare, and it is powerful. One way to practice this is to pretend you're advising someone you love. When faced with a decision, ask, if this were someone I cared about deeply, what would I tell them to do? That simple shift removes ego. It gives you clarity. Another strategy is delayed action. When you feel a strong urge, pause. Don't act immediately. Wait an hour. Wait a day. If the decision still feels right, then make it. But if it fades, it was never worth acting on in the first place. Living by reason is not about eliminating emotion. It's about making sure emotion doesn't run your life. It's about choosing long-term peace over short-term relief. It's about shaping your life with intention, one decision at a time. And when you do this consistently, you become someone that no chaos can shake. Someone who doesn't need to control everything because they already control what matters most, themselves. That is the path of true mental mastery. That is what it means to live as a Stoic. Lesson number 4. Cultivate patience and perseverance. Patience. In today's world, it's almost a forgotten virtue. We live in a time where everything moves fast. Same-day delivery, instant notifications, answers in seconds. And in the middle of that noise, we've come to expect life to move at the speed of a click. But real growth, real strength, that doesn't happen instantly. It takes time, it takes work, and most of all, it takes perseverance. The Stoics knew that anything truly valuable, wisdom, self-mastery, inner peace, cannot be rushed. It must be built, slowly, brick by brick, through quiet, steady effort. How often have you started something, a goal, a habit, a dream, only to get frustrated when the results didn't come fast enough? Maybe you launched a business. Maybe you began a new fitness journey. Maybe you committed to becoming more disciplined. But weeks go by, and progress feels painfully slow. That's when doubt creeps in. That's when most people quit. But the Stoics remind us, frustration comes from unrealistic expectations. When you expect instant results, you suffer. When you expect struggle, you endure. Marcus Aurelius said, "You must build up your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible." That one quote holds a lifetime of wisdom. It means that your job is not to control how fast success comes. Your job is to focus on the next step, and the next, and the next. It means that every small action, done with intention, adds to something greater. Mastery is not one massive leap. It is thousands of quiet, patient steps forward. When life gets hard, and it will, you have two choices. You can complain, or you can commit. You can ask, why is this happening to me? Or you can ask, what is this here to teach me? The Stoic chooses the second question. Every setback, every failure, every delay, it's not punishment, it's preparation. Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. And it's true. If you avoid discomfort, you avoid growth. Every obstacle is shaping you into someone stronger, someone more resilient, someone more capable. Think of a tree. It doesn't reach for the sky overnight. It grows slowly, season by season, weathering storms, shedding leaves, digging roots. That's what real growth looks like, and the same is true for you. Even when you don't see progress, it doesn't mean it's not happening. Your consistency, your discipline, is building something inside you that cannot be taken away. One of the biggest reasons people give up is because they measure success by immediate results. But the Stoic measures success by effort, by dedication, by the ability to keep going even when the path feels uncertain. Motivation will not carry you far. It fades. But discipline, that's what gets you out of bed on the hard days. That's what keeps you moving when no one's watching. That's what turns ordinary people into something extraordinary. And here's the truth. Every great leader, every great philosopher, every master of their craft, they were all shaped by struggle. They were all built in silence, in solitude, through hardship. The difference between them and everyone else? They didn't quit. They accepted the slow grind. They accepted the pain. And they turned it into power. So next time you feel discouraged, when progress feels invisible, remember this. It's not supposed to be easy. Growth takes time. Greatness takes time. But if you keep showing up, if you stay patient and persevere, you are already becoming the person you were meant to be. That is the Stoic way. That is how you master your mind. Not by chasing speed, but by embracing the slow, steady, unstoppable force of consistency. Lesson number 5. Manage expectations. So much of our suffering, our disappointment, frustration, resentment, doesn't come from life itself. It comes from our expectations of life, from believing that people should act a certain way, that success should come quickly, that life should be fair, but life doesn't follow your script. People don't always do what's right. Outcomes don't always reward your effort, and the more you expect life to be smooth and predictable, the more it will break your heart. That's why the Stoics taught something powerful and freeing. Manage your expectations, and you protect your peace. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and Stoic philosopher, began his mornings by reminding himself, "The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." At first that might sound cynical, but it's not. It's preparation. It's mental armor. He wasn't hoping to be disappointed, he was preparing not to be. Because when you expect that others might fail you, their actions don't knock you off course. When you expect that things might go wrong, you're ready to adapt. Think about it. You hold the door open for someone. You expect a thank you, but they walk by without acknowledging you. Instantly you're irritated, not because of what happened, but because of what you expected. That expectation created pain, but what if you expected nothing? What if your act of kindness wasn't a transaction but a gift? Then you would walk on, undisturbed. The Stoics teach us, don't place your peace in someone else's hands. Don't build your happiness on how you wish things would go. Build it on what is. When you lower your expectations, not of yourself, but of the world, you stop being constantly disappointed by it. That doesn't mean becoming negative. It means becoming realistic. It means recognizing that people are flawed, that circumstances are unpredictable, and that life is not obligated to match your plans. Let go of the illusion that life must always reward your effort in the way you expect. Sometimes you do everything right and still face failure. Sometimes you give your all and still get let down. But that doesn't mean something is wrong. It just means life is life. The Stoics would tell you, you're not here to control outcomes. You're here to respond to them with wisdom and strength. So how do you apply this in everyday life? First, expect people to act according to their nature, not your hopes. If someone has consistently broken promises, don't expect them to change overnight. Hope for it, sure, but prepare yourself mentally so that if they don't, you aren't caught off guard. Second, detach from outcomes. Work hard, aim high, give your best, but accept that the result is not guaranteed. You can't control the wind, but you can control your sails. And third, accept reality as it unfolds. Don't cling to how things should be. Face what is and move forward. Seneca wrote, "He who expects the worst will never be disappointed." Again, that's not about being negative. It's about being unshakable. It's about refusing to hand your peace over to things you can't control. When you let go of rigid expectations, you allow life to surprise you. You start to see things clearly, respond wisely, and move through the world with a calm confidence that nothing can rattle. Managing your expectations doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means raising your resilience. It means saying, no matter what comes, I am ready. I will not break. That's the Stoic way. That's what it means to master your mind. Lesson number 6. Live simply. We're constantly told that happiness is just one more achievement away, one more purchase, one more status symbol. But the truth is, the more we chase more, the more we lose ourselves. The Stoics knew this long before the modern world invented luxury marketing. They knew that happiness doesn't come from gaining everything. It comes from needing less. It comes from simplicity, from stripping life down to what actually matters. And in a world that glorifies excess, living simply is one of the most radical and freeing choices you can make. Seneca warned us, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." Think about that. True poverty doesn't come from a lack of resources. It comes from a lack of contentment. The moment you need something outside of yourself to feel okay, you've given away your power. You're no longer free. You're owned by your cravings, by your image, by your things. Living simply isn't about rejecting all comfort. It's not about living in a cave or owning nothing. It's about not being ruled by what you own, or by the endless hunger for more. Simplicity brings freedom. When you stop tying your self-worth to material possessions or social approval, you begin to feel something extraordinary. Peace. A kind of peace that doesn't rely on trends or upgrades, or what other people think of you. The Stoics practiced this daily. They reduced their desires. They questioned their needs. They asked, do I really need this, or have I just been taught to want it? And in doing so, they found something that most people never will: the ability to feel full even in the absence of excess. And here's the truth. When you need less, you're harder to control. You're not pulled by the marketing machine. You're not weighed down by debt. You're not chasing a version of success that was never yours to begin with. So how do you live simply in today's world? First, declutter your desires. Ask yourself honestly, what do I actually need to feel at peace? Is it this object, this purchase, or is it something deeper? Purpose, clarity, calm. Second, prioritize experiences over possessions. The joy of a quiet morning, deep conversation, time spent learning or growing, that lasts far longer than the excitement of a new gadget. Third, let go of status. Stop trying to prove your worth through what you wear, what you drive, or what you post. You don't need to be impressive. You need to be free. Simplicity doesn't just apply to your stuff. It applies to your schedule, your mental space, your obligations. Start saying no to what doesn't align with your values. Say no to busyness for the sake of busyness. Say no to distractions disguised as opportunities. The more you remove from your life, the more room you create, for peace, for purpose, for power. When you live simply, you think clearly. You move freely. You're no longer distracted by noise because you've built a life around signal, around meaning, around intention. And that kind of life, it doesn't just feel better. It is better. The Stoics knew this. They practiced it. And if you want to master your mind, it's not about filling your life with more. It's about letting go. About realizing that the person who needs the least is the strongest of all. Lesson number 7. Focus on the present moment. Most people are living everywhere except right now. They're trapped in the past, rehashing mistakes, reliving pain, holding on to what can't be changed. Or they're lost in the future, worrying about things that haven't happened, spinning stories about what might go wrong. And in that mental fog, they miss the only thing they ever had control over: the present moment. The Stoics believed this was one of the greatest causes of human suffering, not life itself, but our refusal to fully live it. Why is this so hard? Because the mind is addicted to distraction. It escapes into memory. It rushes into fear. It clings to anxiety and regret. That's why so many people compulsively scroll through their phones, multitask during conversations, or zone out when life is happening right in front of them. But the Stoics taught that peace comes from anchoring yourself, not in what was or what might be, but in what is, right here, right now. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors. Think of yourself and how to live the present moment." He wasn't offering a slogan. He was offering salvation. Because when you return to the present, you return to power. You're no longer dragged by yesterday or panicked by tomorrow. You are here, and here is where your strength lives. So how do you train yourself to stay present? First, learn to observe your thoughts. The moment you catch yourself drifting into the past or spiraling into the future, gently bring yourself back. No judgment, just awareness. Say to yourself, "I am here. This is now." That single act can break the trance and give you clarity. Second, engage fully in whatever you're doing. If you're eating, eat. If you're walking, walk. If you're speaking to someone, listen, really listen. Presence doesn't just reduce stress, it deepens your experience of life. Suddenly the small things, a breeze, a glance, a sip of coffee, become sacred. Not because they're extraordinary, but because you were fully there for them. Third, use your breath as an anchor. Your breath is always happening now. Slow it down. Feel it. Return to it. In the Stoic tradition, breath wasn't just biological, it was spiritual. It was a reminder that you are alive, and as long as you are breathing, you still have a choice. You still have a moment, you still have control. And finally, accept what is. The present moment may not be perfect. It may be uncomfortable, painful, or uncertain. But it is real. It is yours. Stop resisting it. The more you resist what is, the more power you give away. The more you accept it, the more freedom you reclaim. Time is the one resource you cannot earn back. Every second spent lost in the past or fearing the future is a second of your life you never get to live. The Stoics knew this. That's why they lived with urgency, with clarity, with full presence, because the person who can master the moment can master their entire life. When you learn to focus fully on now, everything changes. Your mind quiets, your actions become deliberate, your connection to others deepens, and your ability to stay calm, focused, and unshakable becomes second nature. This isn't just a practice, it's a way of life, and it's one of the greatest keys to mastering your mind. Lesson number 8. Turn obstacles into opportunities. Life is unpredictable. No matter how careful you are, how well you plan, or how disciplined you become, there will be setbacks. There will be failures. There will be moments that knock the wind out of you and make you question everything. Most people see these obstacles as unfair punishments, as signs to quit. But the Stoics? They saw them differently. They believed that within every obstacle was a gift. Within every hardship, an opportunity. Not to retreat, but to rise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That idea that what blocks your path is not the end of the road, but the road itself, is one of the most transformative mindsets you can adopt. It means the problem isn't the problem. The problem is your relationship with the problem. Once you stop resisting difficulty and start using it, you become unstoppable. So how do you actually do that? How do you turn adversity into advantage? First, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Failure isn't a dead end. It's a classroom. Every setback reveals something, a weakness you didn't know you had, a strategy you need to rethink, a truth you were avoiding. But if you're too busy being angry or ashamed, you miss the lesson. So stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this here to teach me?" Second, ask, "How can I use this to my advantage?" Some of the most successful, resilient people you know were shaped by pain. They were laid off and built their own businesses. They were rejected, and it pushed them to grow. They were knocked down, but it forced them to build strength they never would have found otherwise. The obstacle became the reason they evolved. And you can do the same. Third, no matter how hard life hits you, always come back to this. What is still within my control? Maybe you lost a job, ended a relationship, or had your plans fall apart. Those events might be outside your hands, but your response isn't. Your mindset, your next move, your attitude, that is where your power still lives. Let's look at a few examples. You lose your job. Most people spiral, but a Stoic sees it as a chance to reinvent, to pivot, to create something better. A relationship ends. Yes, there's pain, but instead of being broken by it, you decide to become stronger, wiser, more self-aware. You hit a health crisis. It scares you, but you use it to wake up, to value your life more deeply, to take better care of yourself. That's the Stoic way, to never waste suffering. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Just as your muscles grow when they are stressed and tested, so does your spirit. That means the more you go through, the more capable you become, not despite your hardships, but because of them. But to unlock this transformation, you must change your perspective. Stop seeing obstacles as interruptions. Start seeing them as part of the path, because they are necessary. They are training you. Every moment of resistance is sculpting your character. Every setback is sharpening your focus. Every delay is strengthening your resolve. When you embrace this truth, you gain something rare: resilience. You become the kind of person who doesn't just survive chaos, you grow through it. You become the kind of person who sees problems and doesn't flinch, but leans in and says, "This is my moment." That's what it means to live like a Stoic. That's what it means to master your mind, not by avoiding difficulty, but by turning it into fuel, into fire, into the very thing that makes you unbreakable. Lesson number 9. Accept suffering as part of life. There is a truth most people spend their lives trying to escape, but the Stoics walk directly into it. That truth is this: suffering is inevitable. You cannot avoid hardship. You cannot outrun pain. At some point, life will test you. It will take something from you. It will shake the ground beneath your feet. And while most people resist this reality, clinging to the idea that life should be easy, the Stoics embraced it. Because they knew something most people don't. Suffering isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. The sooner you stop trying to avoid all discomfort, the sooner you start to grow. Every painful experience, every loss, every failure, every disappointment holds a lesson, but only if you're willing to look, and only if you stop seeing your pain as punishment and start seeing it as preparation. The Stoics didn't deny the reality of suffering. They trained for it, they expected it, and when it arrived, they were ready. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." In other words, just as your body grows stronger when it's challenged, so does your soul, but only if you face the pain with courage. Only if you decide, this will not destroy me, this will define me. Think about it. What has shaped you more, your comfort or your challenges? What taught you more, your easy wins or your devastating losses? You don't grow when everything is going right. You grow when you're forced to dig deep, to rise after falling, to become someone who can't be broken by the things that once shattered you. But suffering only transforms you if you let it. If you resist it, if you complain, if you keep asking why me, you miss the gift. The Stoic doesn't waste energy on that question. They ask instead, how can I use this? What can I become through this? There's a quiet power in accepting what hurts. Not in a passive way, not in defeat, but in strength. It's saying, yes, this hurts. Yes, this is hard, but it's mine to carry, and I will carry it with grace. Because when you stop fighting the reality of suffering, it loses its power to control you. You rise above it. You become bigger than the pain. The Stoics even practiced voluntary discomfort, fasting, walking barefoot in the cold, sleeping without luxury, not because they wanted to suffer, but because they wanted to be ready, so that when real hardship came, it wouldn't break them. They would be steady, grounded, untouchable. Imagine what your life would look like if you no longer feared suffering, if pain didn't throw you into panic, but pushed you into purpose. That kind of strength isn't common, but it's possible, and it's available to you right now, but only if you choose to change your perspective. When suffering comes, and it will, you have two options: let it crush you, or let it shape you. Let it close your heart, or let it deepen your strength. Let it silence you, or let it sharpen your voice. The Stoics chose the latter every time, and so can you, because when you stop running from suffering and start learning from it, nothing can stop you. Not fear, not failure, not even pain. That's the mindset of someone who has truly begun to master their mind. Lesson number 10. Cultivate inner stillness through reflection. In a world that never stops talking, stillness is a superpower. Everywhere you turn, there's noise. Notifications, opinions, breaking news demands endless distraction. Most people go through their entire lives without ever truly being alone with their thoughts. They fear silence. They avoid reflection. But the Stoics knew if you want to master your mind, you must learn to listen to it. You must create space for stillness, not just in your environment, but in your soul. Because when you're constantly reacting, constantly consuming, constantly moving, you forget who you are. You drift. You lose clarity. You become a stranger to yourself. But in stillness, you remember. In stillness, you return. Inner peace doesn't come from avoiding chaos. It comes from learning how to be calm within it. That's the Stoic way. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the most powerful empire on earth, made time every single day for quiet reflection. Not for anyone else, for himself. In his private journal, what we now call meditations, he wrote not to impress others, but to examine his mind, sharpen his values, and remind himself of what truly matters. That habit helped him rule wisely, calmly, and with discipline, and you can do the same. Self-reflection is not a luxury, it is a necessity. If you don't take time to examine your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, you become reactive. You move through life on autopilot, repeating patterns that keep you stuck. But when you slow down, when you sit with yourself and ask, did I act with integrity today? Did I allow anger to guide me? Did I waste energy on what I can't control? You begin to transform. Start simple. Spend time each day in solitude. No phone, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. Take a walk. Sit in silence. Let your mind settle. In that quiet, you'll find clarity. You'll see what needs to be healed, what needs to be changed, and what needs to be celebrated. Journaling is one of the most powerful tools for reflection. When you write, you organize your mind. You slow your racing thoughts and turn them into something you can understand. Over time, you'll notice patterns, emotional triggers, self-sabotaging habits, strengths you didn't recognize. Writing isn't just for remembering, it's for revealing. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the inner work. It means pulling your focus inward, recalibrating and strengthening your core, because the truth is, life will never be quiet, but you can be. The world will always throw storms your way. But if your roots are deep, if your mind is steady, if you've cultivated stillness, you will not be moved. And this stillness, it's not about retreating from life. It's about becoming so centered that you can fully show up to it. You become the eye of the storm. Calm, focused, intentional. Others will notice it. They won't know exactly what it is, but they'll feel it, that presence, that peace, that quiet confidence. And it all begins with reflection, with the discipline of looking within, with asking yourself every single day, am I living as my highest self? The Stoics didn't seek control over the world. They sought mastery over the self. And stillness was their foundation. So in a world of chaos, be different, be still, and you will begin to see what most never do, the strength that comes not from noise, but from silence, the wisdom that rises when you stop running and start listening. That is the final key to mastering your mind. The path to mastery begins now. You've just learned 10 powerful Stoic lessons, tools to help you master your mind, sharpen your focus, and live with strength in a chaotic world. But knowledge alone isn't enough. It's action that creates change. These principles only work if you apply them, daily, deliberately, consistently. Mastering your mind isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing growth over comfort, clarity over chaos, and discipline over impulse. Start with one lesson. Practice it, live it, and then build from there. Every small step forward shapes the person you're becoming. If this message resonated with you, drop a comment below. Tell me which lesson hit hardest. And don't forget to subscribe, because your journey to self-mastery has just begun. Remember, true power comes from within. Be calm, be focused, be stoic,